everybody to this month's AcuGraph training webinar. Today we're going to cover a topic that has been requested a lot, and that is how do I input or install or load a custom cover page for my reports, and then how do I use it in my reports? And hey, this is a good one. I especially love that it's small enough that we can probably keep to our allotted time this time. So we're looking forward to having a great webinar with everybody today. Couple of pieces of housekeeping before we get started. First of all, over on the left side, you'll see, or I guess it may be your right side, you'll see where you can type in the chat window. And if you type there, right where you type your text, just next to it, there's a little speech bubble. And if you click that, you can change from a speech bubble to a QA bubble. If you're asking a question, hit that QA and it'll pop up to us as a question and I'll know to answer it. If you're just writing a comment or putting in a chat to the rest of the group, then leave the chat bubble there. And then we're going to try to answer all questions and let everybody make sure that they get everything in that they want to get in today. So glad to see so many people. Welcome, and let's get started. First of all, to talk about cover pages, I have a little bit of a keynote that I put together here. So I'm going to switch over to that and let's talk about it. There we go. Okay, custom report covers. Everything that you need to know about the topic. First of all, let's talk about why you use a report in general, okay? Not just a custom cover, but why use an AcuGraph report? And while I'm talking about that, I'm going to put up a little survey. I'd like to know how many of you are providing a report and how often you're providing a report to your patients. So you'll see that there's a little poll put up there. Go ahead and click and let us know. Do you use a report every time you do a graph? And that can be emailing a report or that can be printing a report for your patient. Do you do it every time? Do you do it sometimes? Really not much at all? Or maybe you didn't know there were reports. So let us know that. Meanwhile, I want to talk about why you should be using these reports and why it's a good idea to use them frequently. There's a lot of important benefits to the patient when you do that. First of all, communication. Now, it's no secret that Chinese medicine and acupuncture are a little bit weird, okay? A little bit outside the box. We know this. People come to you and they have some strange expectations. A lot of them are coming out of the Western medical mindset. They don't quite know what acupuncture is about, but maybe they heard it would help. And communication has always been a big problem in TCM. When you explain to somebody, well, you have liver qi stagnation, they understood the word liver, and that's all they understood. And so then they're going to go back to the doc and say, yeah, the acupuncturist said I have a liver problem. The doctor's going to say, no, you don't. Your liver enzymes are fine. Those acupuncturists are crazy. So when you can communicate what acupuncture actually is about, and you can do it in a visual way using objective evidence, then you get better patient understanding, and therefore you get buy-in to what you're doing. And I can't overemphasize this. This is really, really important. If patients don't understand what you're doing, then there's only one thing that's going to control your relationship with them, and that is how they feel. If they come to you, you treat them once, they don't get an immediate result, they don't immediately feel better, that may be the only shot you had and they're gone. So it's important to communicate how this works, why this works. It can take some time. And you're going to do that with the report. Secondly, when they understand and they buy into what you're doing, you're going to get better compliance. That means if you put together a treatment plan that says, okay, we're going to do 6 treatments and then we're going to reassess and go from there, having a report and showing them what's going on and how it's changing is how you keep them compliant. Because maybe they feel better after visit number 2. And we all know that as soon as patients feel better, they tend to stop coming. And then, of course, they turn you into nothing but a glorified aspirin. They'll come to you when they hurt. They'll stop coming when they feel good. That's really not getting them all the benefit they could be getting. frankly, they're not getting their money's worth if all you are is a glorified aspirin. So better compliance, better outcomes, better result for the patient, and they're getting their money's worth. I love that. And then third, and this is important, having a printed report or an emailed report, but something visual that you give to the customer alters the relationship with the customer by using what we call a higher authority. In the psychology of how that patient is relating to you, think about this. How many of your patients, by the time they come to you, they've already Googled what they think they have, and they already have self-diagnosed on the internet, and maybe they've read some articles on WebMD, and they're pretty well informed. And then they're coming to you, and they may feel that they know more than you do. They may feel that they have a better understanding or grasp, and they just want you to make them feel better. You're back to being an aspirin. But when you can do the testing and provide a report that shows them objective evidence or proof of what it is that's going on and why it is you are doing what you're doing, you can point to the lab results, so to speak. You can point to that test as the higher authority. Now, don't let that make you uncomfortable. Don't be concerned that you are not viewed as the higher authority. But facts are facts. Patients trust technology. Every one of them's walking in. They've got their smartphone in their pocket. They've been online. And frankly, that's just the way it is. So embrace it. When they go to the medical doctor will, say what they think is wrong, but more often than not, they're going to do some testing. And then they'll point to the test and they'll say, oh, we've got your results. Now we know. And that's the authority of the doctor, is pointing to the results, pointing to the test. So appeal to that authority, use that authority. That actually gives you greater believability, greater authority in the patient's eyes. And so that's important. Use it, embrace it. All right, having said that, let's go back and talk about the benefits to the practitioner of using a printed report and sharing that with the patient. Already talked about having a higher authority, having something you can point to, makes the patient more comfortable, makes you more authoritative. Interfacing with other professionals. Throw a comment just over there on the side in the chat window. I'm going to end the poll here. Let's see the poll results, by the way. About 40% give a report to the patient every time they do a graph. Good. 20% most of the time. And a third of you are rarely using the report. And a brave 7% of you didn't know there were reports. All right, great. Thanks for the feedback. In the chat window over there, go ahead and drop in, do you ever, or have you ever used the AcuGraph report as a way to interface with other professionals? Maybe maybe the patient has a medical doctor they work with, a naturopath, a chiropractor, another healthcare professional. Have you ever used that report? Just put in a comment there and let us know if you've done that, because I know some of you have, and it's really valuable. It gives you a common ground, something to discuss, something to point to. And even if you're dealing with, I don't know, say a medical doctor who has no idea about acupuncture, pointing to a graph and a chart and saying, look, here's what we're working on and here's how it's changing, gives you instant credibility and an understanding with that professional. So great way to go. Pop in a comment, let us know if you've done that. Meanwhile, oh, record keeping was the other one. Sorry, it got ahead of us. But some of you are still keeping printed records, still keeping printed patient files. And if you're doing that, then obviously the report is a very valuable tool for record keeping. So with that in mind, let's talk about why you want to use a custom cover page when you're doing a report. First of all, there's no substitute for a great first impression, right? They say you can't judge a book by its cover, but everybody judges a book by its cover. That being the case, we might as well get used to the fact that that's what we're dealing with and embrace it. Then secondly, we've got, there we go. We want to set expectations with the patient. Often when they've come to you, it's their first visit. They're just getting started. They don't know what acupuncture is all about. You've shown them some really great stuff on screen. when they walk out of your office with a printed report in their hand, or when they get home and already in their inbox in their email is the report from you, the results of what they did that day, that is a strong, powerful first impression that shows them that you are a competent professional, you're knowledgeable, you use technology. All of that serves very well to set the standard and the impression that you want. So you can only do that once. You only get one first impression. That cover page is your face. It is the expectation. So use it and use it well. There are some important definitions that are given in the cover page as well. This is where you define and tell them what it is they're going to be reading, what it is they should expect, what it means. This defines really the whole relationship of acupuncture with you based on what you say in that cover. And last but not least, it establishes the value of what you're doing. It's great that you have a report. It's even better when that report has a professional looking cover. It shows that, hey, this is a professional. This is a valuable service. And establishing value is highly important in the relationship. So there we go. I think that we've covered why you want to cover. So let's do it. Let's talk about how to create a good cover page and how to get it in AcuGraph so that it shows up all the time. Now, I'm going to walk you through the process here, and we're just going to figure it out. So let me switch over. I'm going to change to my AcuGraph window and show you what I've got going on here. Okay, so here in my AcuGraph window, you can see I've got my test patient Frodo Baggins up, and I'm looking at a graph, and I'm ready to print this graph. I'm ready to produce the report. And so I go down here and I hit the print/email button. We're all familiar with this, hopefully. And it takes me to this page. And I've got some various report options over here. And we'll just start with this first visit report. You'll see down here at the bottom, there is a checkbox where it says custom cover page. If I check custom cover page, then in the preview of the report here, and the preview shows up, this is what the patient's going to see when I print or email this report. You can see that it shows this custom cover page. And wow, this custom cover page is terrible. Kind of got this ugly green box up here at the top. I've got an outdated picture of me, folks. That's like 10 years ago. Not that I'm not great looking there, but I should probably update it. I've got an outdated Pi score thing here. This whole report just needs to go. So now that we know that I've got to update my report, let's walk through the process of doing that. I'm going to switch back to a different screen here. Just one moment, and I will show you exactly how I go about that. So I'm going to open up a cover page that I've got here. There we go. And let me put that up and show it to you. Okay, so you can see here that I've got this this cover page here ready to go. And later on in the presentation today, I'm going to give you some cover page templates that you can take and modify yourself, customize them for your own use, and make them yours. And we're just going to give that to you. And so some of these are some of the cover pages you're going to see in those templates. First thing you do is get rid of my picture, put in your own information, your own logo, make it yours. But I'm going to go ahead and let's say, based on what I've got here, I like this particular cover page the best. And I'm in a program right now called Pages. It's a word processing document layout program for Macintosh. It's where I like to do my documents. But you could just as easily be in Microsoft Word. You could be in PowerPoint. You could be in Publisher. It doesn't matter what you use to create your cover page. However you're comfortable creating a document, that's what to use. And so in here, you can edit text, and you can do whatever you need to do, put in graphics. When you've got your cover page the way you like it, I'm first going to show you how to do this in a Macintosh environment. And then we're going to cover how to do it in Windows. So sit tight for the Windows folks, just one moment. But here's what to do in a Mac environment. I'm going to go to print. And so I hit my print button, and it doesn't look like it's screen sharing the print window very well, unfortunately. So I'll just describe what I'm doing. I choose the page that I want to print. In this case, I'm choosing page 3 of this document because there were 3 pages, but pick the page that I want to print. And with a Mac, down in the bottom of the print window, there's a PDF menu. And so I just hit the PDF button, save as PDF, give it a name and save it. And it's just that simple. That's how you do it in Mac. And now you've saved your cover page as a PDF and it's ready to go into AcuGraph. All right, and here we are back at my prints, and we've got that bad custom cover page there. So now what I'm going to do is go into settings up here at the top, and I'm going to click reports. And as you can see, the second item down here is custom cover page, and it tells me to select the PDF to use as my custom cover page. So I'm going to hit the browse button here, and now I'm going to browse to where that custom cover page is that I want to use. And I think I've got it right here. And I hit open. And then it pops up a little window that says my custom cover page has been saved. You didn't see that window pop up because it popped up on my other screen, but it's just that easy. You browse to it, you point to it, it loads it in. And now when I go back, then you can see in my previews that it's got the new cover page that I just uploaded, and it's gotten rid of that old cover page that was outdated, and it's ready to go. Now whenever I print or email, then I've got my cover page there. And so I think it's a much better look, and I think it's a great thing to do, and it'll only take you a minute, honestly, especially if you start with one of our templates. Now I'm gonna switch over to Kimberly. She's got some cool stuff. I want to show you what she did, and this is really exciting to show you that any of you can do this, because Kimberly's not a huge techie. She can use a computer. She's pretty good, but she jumped in this morning before this webinar, started with one of our templates, customized it herself, stuck it in her AcuGraph, and I want to show that to you. While I'm switching over to Kimberly, though, I am going to pop up for you right now where you can download for free our custom cover templates. And so that should come up for you now. You can click the button, you can download a zip file. Those templates are in Word format, in Pages format for Macintosh, and they're also in PDF format. And you can take them, use them, customize them, put your info in there, save them, and have your own great cover page. Or design something yourself, whatever you'd like. After we talk to Kimberly, I'm going to tell you how we can get you some help with design if you need someone to help you. If you're not all that computer savvy, we'll talk about that next. But meanwhile, Kimberly, let's go over to you and show us what you did.
All right, can everyone see my face now, Adrian?
Yes, yes, we see your face.
You see my face. Okay, hello everyone. I am super excited about this. One of the reasons that we created this webinar is because I get a lot of phone calls and emails from people saying, Kimberly, will you just share your template? I often share it when I go to a show and show practitioners how they can have a custom cover page on their report. And I recently moved to a new clinic, and so I've been doing a lot of updating, changing the look and feel of everything that I'm doing on my website. And so I wanted to create a new custom cover page. And so I told Adrian, I said, why don't we create something that we could share with the practitioners? And I was super excited. And so when I came in this morning, he gave me his templates of what his daughter is fantastic. She does graphic designs, and so she did some work for us and created some basic templates. And so this morning was the first time that I saw them. I had actually created the wording for it, but not the design. So I'm going to show you my first thoughts this morning and then what I changed to. So let me share this screen. Okay, so there were 3 pages that were created this morning, and they were based on Adrian. So you notice his picture is here in the bottom. So this was the first one, and we designed it so that you could put your own business name, add a logo, change out your picture, your address, your email address. And I wrote the terminology on how I would use it in my clinic. So I was really happy with that. But when I looked at it, I went, oh, yeah, it matches Adrian, but it doesn't match me. But hang tight because I have more to share. So we'll look at the second one. So that was number one. Here's number two. Another design, very nice. It looks really good with his photograph. You recognize, so you probably would choose your logo and your photograph and have everything matching. And then here is the third one, and notice the gold. It matches the gold leaves. So I looked at it. I looked at him, and then I thought, okay, how can I personalize this and make it my own? In 15 minutes before we start this webinar this morning. So I'm going to, here's Adrian's number one, and I'm going to show you what I created off that same exact template. All I did was bring in my own logo and change some colors to match my own theme. So here is mine. Notice, let's see, can I get it so you can see both? Okay, so notice, we took away the Healing Place Acupuncture and took away the logo, and we put my own logo in. I changed a little bit of color and sizing. I added my own color and added my own picture, and now it looks and feels like it belongs in my clinic. So that was number one. I'll take away number one and move on to, we'll take away Adrian's number one. We'll move on to number two. So here's Adrian's again, and then here's mine. So all I did literally was change the color of these lines, add my own logo in, add my own picture, and make it my own. And it looks and feels exactly like my clinic. And let's see, let's take away those. And then here was Adrian's number three. And here is my number three. And I think this is probably the one that I'm going to use in my clinic. I like it a lot. So a couple things that I learned this morning. I paid someone to create logos for me a while back. And when you, let's see, maybe I should change, let me change my screen share back to my face here. There you go. When you pay someone to create your logos, they're going to give you this file of logos that you can use at different times for different things. And typically there's a small, a medium, and a large. And I realized this morning that there was one that was clear, that had a clear background. And that's how I was able to, put my logo, well, let's see, start screen share. That's how I was able to put my logo on here and have the background followed. So you learn something new every day, even for a non-technical gal like me. But I'm super excited to add these to my new cover page. I know that having a cover page has been really an important aspect for me. When I give the cover page on that first day, I have a couple of goals in mind. I feel like when a new patient comes in, they're very impressed. They're super excited about everything that I've shared. They're excited that I'm offering them something different. When I give them the report, I explain to them that that when they read it, they will find out information that is based on Chinese medicine and imbalances. And I put that in the wording right in the beginning of the report. I put that in the wording for them so that when they get home, they remember what I've told them. But I told them that they're going to want to go and they're going to want to read about the imbalances, the symptoms that could be happening in their body based off of their imbalances. And I've got a call to action in the report. I actually asked them to circle the items that are that they feel relate to them and bring the report back with them the next time so that they can ask questions. So I've given them a bit of homework. I've handed them a report that's professional, and absolutely hands down that first week or two after I've done the first visit, that is when they are sending new patients to me. So I've made this cover page to a point where it's got my Facebook information, it's got my website. It tells them to share this information with their friends. It tells them to go like me on Facebook. It tells them all the things that I would want them to know when they leave. And then the other thing that I do is I attach a couple of business cards to the front with a paper clip So I staple the report together, I attach 2 business cards, and I tell them, you are going to want to hand these cards to other people. Feel free. And give them all away, because when you come back, I have more. And so I plant that seed in their mind on that very first visit. And it is a fantastic way of getting new referrals. And that cover page shows who I am. It speaks about your professionalism. It speaks about your education. It shows your knowledge. And they have to have something when they leave to be able to hand, oftentimes to their spouse or someone in their family, so that they can justify. Some people feel like they have to justify their choice in acupuncture to their family members as they begin this journey, and the report does that for them. So that has been my experience, and that's why I feel like a cover page is so important. I'm gonna pop back over to Adrian here.
Okay, thanks, Kimberly. I got to tell you, I was impressed that Kimberly could take our templates and literally in 15 minutes create what she did, customize it to her office, and have a great looking cover. So way to go. You're inspiring us all. A couple more things to cover, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. But first, I wanted to mention that over on the side of your screen here, there's probably a button where you can download those templates, and there's probably a little green arrow, like a little up arrow thing next to the button. If you click that, you'll see you'll see a picture, you'll know what you're getting. But I didn't realize that it was showing both the chat window and the download link over there. So you can click that green arrow, it'll go up, click the red, it'll come back down. Secondly, with regard to if you have a cover page already in your AcuGraph and you want to change to a new cover page, something that might be important to do if you're running multiple computers, those of you that are on professional plan or enterprise plan, and you have multiple computers on your network all sharing the same AcuGraph data, you might need to go change it on each computer. If you change it on one, it may not change on the others. So just put it on a thumb drive and go to however many computers you have, just load it on there. It only takes a second. That way you've got it the same on all of them. So little tip there for you. All right, and then the other thing that I wanted to ask folks was how many of you are using a custom cover page right now, or before this webinar? How many of you were already using a custom cover on your AcuGraph? I'm just curious. I put up a little poll. You can vote over there. And meanwhile, we are going to talk about what we can do for those of you who are a little bit tech challenged, or maybe you're just not computery. You can take these templates that we've got, and we had these custom designed by a graphic designer. And if you need some help with that, what we're offering to do is we'll put your own picture on there, your practice information, your logo, whatever you need on there. Pick the one that you want, tell us and send us the items you want on there. For 25 bucks, we'll customize it to you and send you back the PDF ready to put in AcuGraph. 25 bucks. I mean, if you started from scratch and went and paid a designer, you'd pay a lot more than that. We're just covering our design time. 25 bucks will cover up to a half hour of time for our designer to put that together for you and make it yours. And that'll save you some trouble. Now, if you're not tech challenged, if you're comfortable, do it yourself. Save the money. This isn't even a money maker for us. We're just trying to provide a good service. If you have more custom design needs besides changing the logo, the picture, your name and address, but if you want someone to design the whole thing for you, start to finish, and make it yours, then we can make our design services available. Our graphic designer will be glad to do that. That just is straight time. It runs $50 an hour, and whatever you want to do, sky's the limit in a case like that. So I wanted to let you know those resources are there for you. If we can help, we'd love to help. Poll results says that about 27% of you were already using a custom cover page, 55% of you were not, and 18% of you didn't know you could even do that. So good. I'm glad that you came to the webinar today. I hope it was helpful. And now we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions. Anything that you want to ask, it can be about the cover pages and reports, or if you need to ask anything else about AcuGraph, now's your opportunity. We're gonna go for a few minutes and see what people need to know.
Adrian,
Go ahead.
I would love to hear feedback from people on areas within AcuGraph that they would like to see another webinar on. So as we're creating our list of webinars for the future, things that they would like us to talk about, I would like to hear that, and I'd be happy to answer questions about that.
Great idea, Kimberly. Thanks. Yeah, go ahead. If you have questions or ideas, just type them in the chat window there, and we'll be glad to pick them up. You'll notice, by the way, that today's webinar, we really kind of focused it down on a particular topic, because our prior webinars, we were covering such big, broad areas that it was, they were going an hour and a half or more, and that's a long time to sit. And so I'm kind of pleased that we managed to focus it in, and we managed to get it done within the allotted time. That's all a good step for us. But let us know if there's any questions we've got. We'll leave it open for another couple minutes here. If we don't have further questions, then we'll shut down in a couple of minutes here, but we'll give you a minute to think of anything. Okay, we've got a couple of questions coming in here, and so I'm going to get started. I guess that says Levin or Levin. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. I still have some problems explaining the pi. Let me just walk through that for a minute, if that's okay with everybody. I'm going to switch over here to AcuGraph so that you can see what I'm doing, and I will explain how I would explain it to my own patient. So here we go. I'll go back here to this graph, and when I'm explaining the graphs to the patient, I walk through each of them just briefly, especially on the first visit. And I explain what each of these means, and a lot of them are kind of technical. And I recognize that by the time I've gone through them, the patient may actually kind of be overwhelmed, too much information. And so I really like it when I get to the pi, because I say, here's the great news for you. I know there's a lot of information covered here. We looked at your meridians, we looked at yin and yang, we looked at horary cycle and so on. And so I say, I know we've covered a lot of information, and a lot of it's really technical stuff that somebody with my training understands and can use, but for you, you may be a little overwhelmed. And so we've boiled it down and given you a score. This is called your PI, or Personal Integrated Energetic Score. And as you can see, it goes on a scale from 0 to 100. It's not like in school where if you don't get above 60, you failed. It's really typical to get numbers that are low. And I see you scored a 57 today. That's a very typical number for a patient that's starting out with me. And this helps you and me both track how you're progressing, because this tells us your overall meridian balance. It looks at all the technical factors that we looked at. Each of your meridians, your yin and yang, your elements, your upper versus lower and left versus right, your stability, all of that goes into that, and it gives us a number. And we're looking for that number to go up. So after we treat you, next visit when you come in, we're going to do another graph like this. We're going to look at that number, and it's going to tell us how you're progressing. Also, the thing that you're going to see is this circle chart here, this pi. As it gets better, it gets more green. Green is healthy. And so you see you have a lot of green meridians here, but then you have some that are less green and some that are going into the red. We're going to look for those to all trend toward green. That's our goal, is to get as much green as we can on that pi. So that tells you how you're doing and tells you how we'll know when you're doing better. And that is the explanation that I give. And that was a little verbose. You can be briefer than me. I talk a lot. So I hope you find that helpful for an explanation. Other questions that we've got here says, Yvonne says, hi, I know you're not making AcuGraph 5 in Spanish, but I'm needing it. Maybe I could have access to AcuGraph 4. Yeah, the issue there is the translation cost. We hope to be able to do AcuGraph 5 in Spanish. Unfortunately, it is an issue that it's not cheap to get all that translated. And it's not just the translating, but everything involved in having to reprogram the software. It's actually quite involved. I hope that we'll be able to offer that Spanish translation in the future. But it really is going to come down to how much demand there is. If there are other users that need it in Spanish, give us a call or drop us an email, let us know that, and we may be able to do that in the future. But right now we've got our hands full with some of the things we are doing, like the new iPad version of AcuGraph, which we're developing on right now. Oh, Kimberly asked me a question. She says, how about doing a webinar on screening events? And that may be a good idea, talking about how to do screening. We already did one that we did for Jeffrey Grossman's AOM Summit that we may be able to share, which I think was excellent. Next we have Yvonne says, could you explain a little bit about how to integrate new techniques or protocols? What exactly do you mean by that, integrating new techniques or protocols? Can you give us an idea of what you're referring to there, Yvonne? I'm not quite sure what you mean, how to integrate it into AcuGraph.
I could talk about that.
Go ahead.
I would think it would be awesome to do a webinar in the future about different techniques that you could add into your treatment plan after you've balanced the graph. You actually obviously are going to do some points to balance the graph, but there are some techniques and special approaches that I use when there's a diami that just won't quit, or when there's a lot of chronic conditions or certain channels that just won't balance over time. So we could get into some more advanced theory, and maybe we'll do that in our next advanced live training.
Sorry, my mic was muted there. Okay, and Yvonne has clarified. She says where you add treatment plans. So let me just switch back over here and jump into my AcuGraph window again. There we go. Okay, so here in AcuGraph, when you're talking about treatment plans, you can see on the right side of the window is the treatment plan area where you build your treatment plan on the fly. And underneath the graph, you can see that we've got some recommended points. So for this graph, you can see it recommended triple warmer 10, large intestine 2, spleen 2, and so on. Those recommendations are based on the treatment style that I've chosen over here on the left. So I've got basic selected. Those are the basic recommendations, which are just going to tonify and sedate what is found there. I can use advanced recommendations, which will sometimes use 5 elements transfers, the Shannon-Coe cycle, to more efficiently treat and use less points. Although it will not always have a different treatment than the basic. It'll only have one if there is one. And then we have advanced over here, where it will not only treat what's showing up today, but also look at the history. And if there's something chronic, it will add some enhanced points. So from a most basic perspective, I can choose points here, and I can just hit add these to today's treatment plan. That's the yellow button down here. And you can see they got added to the treatment plan. However, if I wanted to do something more advanced, and here I'm deleting those out of the treatment plan, I could say, for example, this excess large intestine. When I click on that, it gives me this picture that I can use to display to the patient, musculotendinous, internals, that's all for education. But then it also gives me common points. And right now, the point that it recommended, based on the fact that this is an excessive, is it's recommending the sedation point, large intestine 2. But let's suppose that instead I want to do something else. For example, let's suppose I want to use a, I don't know, a she-cleft point or a back shoe point. All I have to do is click, and it puts it right in the treatment plan. Adrian, oh, and I'm sorry.
They can't see what you're doing.
Yeah, I just realized you're not seeing the pop-up. Let me see if I can fix that. A little bigger here. Okay, let me just do that again. So I click on large intestine. It gives me this pop-up window here where I've got the various illustrations of the channel. And I can choose points here. The one that was recommended was the sedation point, large intestine 2. Excuse me. But I can now choose a different point. So in this case, I had said, what if I want to choose a back shoe point instead? I hit bladder 25. That puts it over here in my treatment plan. So that's another way you can build the treatment plan on the fly, is based on the findings of the graph. You can click in real time. Also down here at the bottom, there's add point and add protocol. So if I click add protocol, it takes me to my protocols list here. And let's suppose that this particular patient, I'm just going to randomly pick something, has epicondylitis. Here it gives me some primary points for that. And again, I can click and it adds them to the treatment protocol on the fly. And then there are some conditional points. If it's lateral, if it's medial, And again, you can choose points from that. They get added to the treatment plan on the fly. And so that's how you can customize the treatment plan, add your own points. We did that from a protocol, but we can also do it from a point. I can choose a meridian, I can choose a point number, and it adds it to the treatment plan on the fly again, just by clicking. So hopefully that was an answer to what you were looking for. And let me get back and see. We have another question. The difference with the energy score in ratio versus pi gives a longer health prognosis. So in the ratios graph, and let me again put the screen back up here so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, in the ratios graph, right here, you can see that there is a stability level. There's an upper-lower balance. That's the balance between the hands and the feet when measured. The left-right balance, the overall energy level, and the yin-yang balance. So there's a bunch of very specific numbers here in the ratios graph. The pi score has an amalgamation of all those numbers. It has a statistical model that actually, it took a lot of work. We went through over 200,000 graphs to come up with the right statistical model. And then we ended up getting a patent on that model. It was pretty cool, kind of groundbreaking stuff. But the pi score is more inclusive of overall balance versus the specific items that are looked at on the ratios. So for example, energy stability, that simply tells us the differences between the highs and the lows. When I look at this graph, I can see I have a high of 154. That's the highest thing on the whole graph. And the lowest thing on the whole graph is 52. So my range in that graph is about 100 points, from 52 up to 154. There's a fair bit of variability in that graph. So in the ratios, my stability is not very good because there is so much variability in that graph. When that graph is a little more balanced and there's less variability and things tend to fall more toward the mean, then you'll find that stability score goes up. The overall prognosis for the patient is not necessarily stipulated based on any one of these scores. There's a number of factors that go in, including how chronic the symptoms are, how long they've had the issue, how many meridians are involved, how many of the meridians are split, I find is significant. And so there's no hard and fast rule for what the prognosis is. Honestly, it kind of comes down to some experience and your own clinical wisdom. So good question. Thanks for asking that. There's some more questions that came in. Yvonne says, if I want to add my techniques like magnets, go ahead and do that by all means. You can put that in your notes, in your treatment notes, where you can actually just type in what you did with magnets. Or if you treated actual points with magnets, you can put the points in your treatment plan and then just add in your notes that you use magnets on the points. Absolutely. Just moving through these in order. Jasenia, I think if I pronounced that right, I hope I did, says, how do I create a new tab? Example, herbs, food tabs that we already have. Unfortunately, you can't add a new tab to AcuGraph. You can customize treatments and customize protocols. We do have a way to do that, but you can't create your own tabs. Let's see. Yvonne says, can I import my database of clients? Unfortunately, you can't import clients from a different database into AcuGraph. You'll just have to add them when you do a graph. But the nice thing is you don't have to add all the information. Really, all you need is a first and last name, an age, and a gender, and you're ready to do the graph. I recommend that you add the email address so that you can email reports. And by the way, little tip, I like to use a printed report on the first visit so they have something in their hands to show people. After that, you don't necessarily have to print them all the time. You can email them, but always I like to use a printed on the first visit. Okay, other questions here. We got export from the database for emailing. Yes, you can export from the AcuGraph database. I'll show you just briefly how to do that. These are great questions, folks. I hope we're cleaning up stuff that you've been wondering about. All right, so here in AcuGraph, I'm sharing this window. Oh, Kimberly, did you have something to say? No. Okay.
I was going to suggest that, yes, I was going to suggest that after this webinar, I know that a lot of questions are coming in, and our goal for all of these questions is to help us to plan future webinars. I'm going to stay available on Facebook, sort of just live in our Facebook user group for the next hour or so after this, so that as you have questions and you want to just keep a conversation going, then I can keep it going there, and I will keep track of all of the things that you are interested in. So anyone who wants to keep the conversation going, because we will have to tie this up fairly soon, but I will stay live, and I probably can convince Adrian to be there live as needed as well.
Okay, cool, thanks. Yeah, we will need to wrap up here, but let me just, we'll just hit this one really quick, and any other quick ones we can tie up. When you're in AcuGraph, if you go up under the edit menu, there is an option for export patient records or export patient contact information. If you do records, you're going to get a spreadsheet with all the graphs, all the records, everything. If you just do contact information, obviously, you're just going to get contact information in spreadsheet form, which you could then use for emailing. So great question there. Thank you very much for that. And let's see if there's any others. Yvonne says, I'm so grateful for AcuGraph. Awesome. We're grateful that you're using it. And Levin said the explanation of the pie was good. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I don't see any new questions coming in, so we will go ahead and wrap it for today, but we will be live over in the AcuGraph users group on Facebook, and look forward to talking to you there. Thanks everybody for coming. If you need that design help, let us know. Meanwhile, download, use the templates, enjoy, and we will talk again soon. All right, take care, folks.